Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is the series, The Chance Encounter, written for Ladrien June. I know it's July. And this is part 4, so I hope you're enjoying it so far. A massive shout out to Dory for her beautiful, stunning commissioned artwork as the thumbnail, so make sure you go and send her some love. All her information is down below. Make sure you send me some love by smashing that like button. It really does help the channel. Comment down below what you think of it and what will happen in part 5, and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on this series and other one-shots and other series that are happening at the moment. And I hope you enjoy. Part 4. Ladybug is trying not to freak out. Ow! How can this be? How is Cat replaced by Adrien? It's not possible. Was it? Wait, maybe she was hit and it was some sort of effect from an Akuma? Because there was no way Adrien had been Cat all this time when she had thought he had left her, abandoned her, lost one of her closest friends. Had he been right by her side? He had been there for her when no one else had been, ending in her falling in love with Cat. Wait, she loves Cat, and had loved Adrien, but if Cat is in fact Adrien, oh, this was far too much to process in this moment. Ladybug, please, say something. The look on your face is... Yeah, she was currently Ladybug, who was discovering that Cat, her partner, is Adrien. She was not Marinette, discovering Cat had lied to her, that Adrien had played some sort of game on her. No, she was Ladybug, so she had to react Ladybug level of surprise, and when she finally stopped this Akuma, then she could be Marinette and break. Taking a deep breath, she took a step back from Adrien. I need a moment to think. Ladybug, I didn't want you to find out like this. I can understand if it's a shock. The nervousness clear in his voice as he reached out for her. She spun round, brushing his hand off her shoulder, but catching his gaze. A shock? That Cat, my partner, is indeed... No. Calm down, Ladybug. I can't show the pain that I'm feeling. It wouldn't make sense to him. But there were so many questions she needed to answer. She turned away from him and headed around the corner. I need to recharge Tiki. That was a lie. She knew it, and so did he. But she needed an excuse not to look at Adrien at the moment. To see the pain on his face? No. She wasn't going to be clouded or swayed by his feelings. Spots off! Marinette leaned her head against the freezing stone and closed her eyes. Images flashing across her mind of the time she spent with Adrien and moments afterwards with Cat. Without looking, she placed her hand into a bag and pulled out a macaroon, holding it out to Tiki in silence. She could hear him muttering something to his Kwame against the sound of constant flowing waters of the sewers and the noise of destruction above. And yet, neither of them talked for what she guessed was 5 minutes, but felt like a lifetime.
Are you good?
Tiki said softly next to her ear. I have to be, she said. She felt a tiny paw stroke away a tear that stained her cheek. Ready?
Yeah, let's defeat this Akuma. And Ladybug,
What you did before? Drawing that again, Tiki said, trying to use her tough voice and making a small smile break across Marinette's lips. She nodded her head. Spots on. Okay. Focus. Marinette had her moment. Now it was Ladybug's turn. She could do this. She had to do this. Adrien? The single word stuck in her throat. Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry, Ladybug. You must be disappointed that it's me. Previous conversation popped into her head of Marinette curled up with Cat, as he asked her what she would think of him once the mask was off. Maybe they shared the same fear. No, of course not. It's just a shock. That's all. That a model could be a superhero? Yeah. To Ladybug, that was all Adrien was to her. Someone she had saved a few times, and a man plastered across countless billboards. Not her Adrien. Well, so far today you have proven you aren't just a model, with or without the mask on. She forced her voice to sound light, but it came out sounding weirder than anything else. She rounded the corner and aimed her gaze towards his face, locking onto his sorrow-filled green eyes. No, too much. How is your arm doing? Not the... The words were lost in the groan of pain as he held his blue scarf in his hand beside him. It came off in... Here, I'll put it back on. She stepped forward as Adrien shuffled backwards. Once Plague has gained his strength and finished, I'll be Cat, so... He gave her a quizzical stare, gesturing to his Kwame, who was surprisingly quiet, munching on his cheese and not looking at either one of them. Plague knew about her. But did that mean Tiki knew about Adrien? I was thinking about that. I think we need Adrien for a little bit longer to help set a trap for Princess Feng. With his back against the stone wall, Ladybug took the blue scarf out of his hand, grateful she couldn't feel the soft wool in her fingers. Wait! He reached out with his better arm and placed his hand on top of hers. She couldn't help but stare at his hand. The groomed to perfection nails were now covered with dirt, and blood from the scratches bedded in the palm of his hand from the stick he used to fight off the assassins. When was the last time Marinette had held his hand? Felt his skin against hers? Right now, Ladybug was the barrier when normally Catsuit was it for them. Ladybug focus. The plan. Stick to the plan. I will explain the plan. Just let me do this to support your arm in the meantime. She felt some of the pressure release from his grip and shrugged off the rest as he let out a sigh. While she moved to stand beside him, stretching out the scarf, she noticed a tear in his jacket and how the fabric was darker around it. With Marinette taking over in her mind, she flung the scarf over her shoulder and ran her gloved fingers across the torn fabric, and noticed how he winced at the slightest of pressure. Adrien, what is this? Were you hurt? Why didn't you... It's nothing, he said through gritted teeth, trying to move away from her, but she had gripped tight onto his other arm so he couldn't move. It's not nothing. This is serious. Take your jacket off. I need to see. With the other hand, she grabbed onto the collar of his tailored suit jacket. Ladybug, we have more urgent... Cat. Adrien, nothing is more urgent. Some of the panic seeped out of her voice. I mean, you wouldn't be much good to me when Adrien can't move and Plague is using most of his power trying to heal you and give you enough energy to fight. That's why you transform back faster than normal. Ladybug shifted a gaze up at the black Kwame, who nodded his head in confirmation but still remained silent. Sorry, buddy. I hadn't realized, Adrien said with a tenderness that reminded her of Cat, causing a sharp pain to ricochet in her heart. He remained still as she gently inched the jacket off his shoulders and threaded his damaged arm through the sleeve, attempting to ignore the fact their faces were merely inches apart. Disregarding his familiar scent, which he knew all too well, and his lips, the ones she had kissed less than a week ago. No! Focus! But for a split second, their eyes glanced upwards and found his staring down at her, filled with various levels of emotions and evidence of pain, wishing she could comfort him. Once the jacket was removed, she could see the cut had torn through his waistcoat, shirt, and skin underneath due to the amount of blood. "Kitty," she whispered, but it was loud enough to grab his attention. "It's worse than it looks, little bug." "You're bleeding. I need to stop it before... Give me a tie." She let go of him and instantly felt the void between them. Casting her gaze to the ground, she studied the small rocks against the wall and found one with a sharp edge. "Sorry about your suit, but the tiny bugs should fix it afterwards." "It's fine." But his words were lost in the sound of the silk lining ripping as she dug the stone in, forming a hole before yanking away from the fine stitches. She could feel his stare on her, watching her as he held out his silk scarf. As Adrien, he really did live in this luxurious world, but as Cat, he had seemed too happy to be in the simplicity of Marinette's world, watching films, cooking dinner, baking. But which one was real? "Hold still." She lifted his top and exposed the gash across his waist. "Adrien, this must hurt. I can't believe you were about to..." "Ladybug?" There was a question in his voice, followed by a wince in pain, as she placed the folded scarf hard against the wound to slow the bleeding, and got his other hand to press down. Twisting the silk lining, extending the length of fabric, she wrapped her arms around him. A single gasp escaped his lips. "Sorry, but I have to stop the bleeding to help Plague, and the bugs will heal you. I need Kitty for that to happen." She regretted taking another glance at his face while she knotted the silk ends together. "I could use the scarf as extra support, but I think this should hold, and your arm needs more whilst you remain Adrien." She analysed the knot one last time before folding down his shirt and covering up a makeshift first aid. "How does it feel now?" "Better, Ladybug. Thank you." She could feel his eyes boring into her. "I didn't know you had such knowledge about fabrics before. It reminds me of someone dear to me who gave me the scarf." Her eyes shot upwards and locked onto his. She hadn't meant to look at him that way, but his words had caught her off guard. Now that she knew Cat was Adrien, did that mean he really did care about Marinette, with or without the mask on? Kept a reminder of her with him. Oh, the look on his face was the same Cat had given to Marinette, but it was now Adrien giving it to Ladybug. Did he know? No. No! She was not boarding that thought train at this present time. She had to focus and get back into the fight. Afterwards, they could... "Can I have your arm?" Using the excuse to tear her eyes away from his. He moved closer to her without saying a word, presenting her with the scarf with his better hand. She repeated the same moves as before, tucking the blue scarf underneath before wrapping the ends around his neck, inching her face next to his, the tickling sensation of his breath on her cheek, his lips. A loud crash sounded above them as the ceiling of the sewers shook and fragments broke off, a reminder of why they were in this position. "So, what's the plan, little bug?" Adrien said with Cat's tone. "Well, the Princess Feng is after you, as well as the Miraculous, which I'm guessing is related to what you said earlier about Gabriel letting you down last minute. A dishonorable slight against her character, which she needs to revenge? Pretty much. She must have found out before I could deliver the news, which only adds to the dishonor I've shown. A bitter anger showed in his voice, and she couldn't help herself as she placed a comforting hand just below the nape of his neck. Do you have an idea of where the Akuma could be? His eyes were searching her face, but she kept hers low. A few days ago, when I greeted her, I presented her with a gift to mark our union. It was a hairpin made up of opals and amethysts, the same one Princess Feng is wearing, so my guess is that. She removed her hand from his back and instead used it to paint images in the air, rolling her bottom lip through her teeth in thought. Okay, so if we take out Princess Feng, that will also stop the assassins. But before that, I will need you to guard me against them, whilst I get close enough to snatch a hairpin and for you to then catalysm it. She nodded her head and walked back and forth, not aware of the smile Adrien was giving her. Ideally, we need to break her away from the assassins to have a chance. To trap her, but where? I mean, fighting her before, she is strong to even stand a chance. I wanted to ask, what was that before? The light? Your new suit design? Which I approve of, by the way. Thanks. She couldn't help blushing. I had an idea to draw on my chi. My master taught me some moves to draw on my flow of energy, and I think Tiki really liked it. Is it something that would help Plague? Adrien looked from his Kwame and then back at Ladybug. It's been done before. I mean, our existence is beyond one philosophy, but over the past 1,000 years, our guardians based in the temple worked on the theory of chi. Tiki and I are yin and yang. The connection we have, the energy around us, and if Tiki can do it, Plague crossed his paws in front of his chest, then I don't see why I can't. Really, buddy? That would be cool. Do you think it could help support and reduce the drain on you whilst I become cat with these wounds? Plague nodded and Adrien grinned, switching his focus back on Ladybug. Could you show me? You would need to be transformed whilst we do this. You need the use of both arms, she said, ignoring the soft stare he was giving her in response. Claws out! A wave of tension lifted from her as her cat was now by her side. This she could cope with, switching her mindset. For the next couple of minutes, she quickly gave a brief breakdown of what her mom had told her and the drawing moves she had used in the fight earlier. Cat took a deep breath and mirrored her moves exactly. If he was in pain, he never showed it. He repeated the moves as a wash of green light filled the dank sewers, revealing a slightly older-looking cat, or the fact the suit now reflected his age, with highlighted green lines across the seams. His muscles were more defined. Ladybug cast her eyes downwards, hoping he couldn't tell she was blushing underneath the mask, but overall he looked more powerful. Do I need to ask? How do you feel? I feel a lot better. I mean, if it wasn't for the wounds, I'm guessing I would feel great, even... You would have thought. We should have asked your master a while ago. Maybe this Sunday I could train with you and master? He moved closer to her, but she stepped back. Would that be as Adrien or Cat? She hadn't meant to sound as harsh as she did, or wipe the smile off his face, but she wasn't there yet, and the hint? The idea that he... No, not here, not now. Thank you for listening to part 4 of the Chance Encounter. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Make sure you smash smash that like button if you did. It really does help to support the channel. Make sure you comment down below what you think of it and what will happen in part 5. And I'm sorry it's another cliffhanger, but part 5 will be out soon. It'll be a lot sooner than this one has been. Sorry for the delay, and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on the next part and other series and other one-shots coming your way. And I hope you are good, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.